And in your case, those obstacles would be, that you have children from a prior relationship, and or some people might call it baggage, some people might call it a privilege. And I think that, that those types of relationships have worked in our country. But here's the dilemma I think that you guys have, is that a lot of guys either do or don't have the kind of resources that it would take to incorporate that into another area of the world, by way of, the expenses or the legalities of all of it. And none of that is presented when you're looking for a mate. What you should do, I think, as a way of advice, is to know what's in front of you. What do you got to do to find first, I guess, and then or know first what it would actually take to get all that together and then relocate to another area if you were going to. And as far as all that other stuff, because of that expense being such a large expense in most cases, I would think, you shouldn't put on the person additional expenses like now I'm obligated to take care of my family even though I'm living abroad. See, I think it just becomes a little far-fetched or ridiculous. And it's not as, as feasible as some might think. Because it's I don't know, man. Think about it. If people or women here, even in our country, were to put that kind of burden, and they have some, on the men that they've met, all they find is that they go through many. They don't find the loyalty, because of a lot of things. And it doesn't make one or the other bad. It just means that there is, in life, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of nooks and crannies. There's a lot of pitfalls. And it's just finding that right person that you can work with and that will work with you, that you can build and establish some type of relationship. And the only thing that I really don't like about some of these resorts or sites that offer, an introduction to somebody else, is that these are, I don't know how they're weeded or how they're scrutinized to determine whether or not they have everything that they need in order in the way of coming to another country and finding a husband. They kind of put that back on you. So they're just a vehicle or a middleman between two parties. And then, because I did look into it, it was not cheap by comparison to the ones that where you just go on there and pick out your own to your liking or whatever. But in my doing that and going that avenue instead of the other, it was because when I asked that question, how do you know that these ones are ready and prepared to come to this country and have all their ducks in a row and their paperwork, etc.? And they said that's something that you take up with them as you select this one or that one. And the hard part of that to me is that it just becomes more and more and more and more and more of an expense. And then when you hear from people from TikTok to YouTube that there's expectations of an allowance, I was touching base on that yesterday, and I've never heard of that. Gosh, I've been married more than once, but as far as working out a budget and then incorporating an allowance into that, it was never something that we did. We had our own accounts and we took care of our own business, and then we come to the middle and took care of our household responsibilities and rents, etc. And we always knew what the other one was doing to make that income. But I would have, even though my wife and I have had hard times, my ex, and who was Miss New Germany and could have worked for Hooters and made a shitload of money, she never resorted back to that lifestyle because that was beneath her, I guess. See, and that was just a time in her life that she went through that. Now, I wouldn't have even known until she told me. But the religion that we were both a part of, it was very obvious, her depth of knowledge into that Bible and the way she acted. But she never recruited me from,